So here's the deal. The first generation of the Sony 1000X, I personally did not like at all. And so many people, actually it's almost unbelievable by now, disagreed with me, which is fine, obviously besides the insults. But still, I think that they were way too heavily sounded. The sound quality on its own wasn't all that good. Now the rest was fine, and I'm definitely gonna admit that even back then, noise cancellation was pretty much already the best one. But that alone just was not good enough for me to be able to recommend them. Unfortunately enough, the M2, the second generation, didn't really change enough or improve or bring anything new to the table to make any significant changes. Those happened with the M3, and actually I think that they changed so much, improved so much for the better, that the 1000X moniker by now feels almost like an understatement. This feels like something else. And I'm gonna let you know what exactly a little bit later on, but let's see what's in the box now. Here we have this really nice case where you can fold them up and store them very neatly, and have also the cables and everything else here, like for example this one, 1.2 meters long, a very nice cable because it's flexible but still stiff enough for not to be tangled up, which is already something that I like on the Z7 M2 very much, that I have here as well. Then we have the airplane adapter, don't really have to show that, along with the, in my opinion, just two short USB Type-C cables, so just use your phone's charger and it will be fine. But I really like the case. Now, design on the M3 has changed because it got a little bit narrower, not to look all that kind of bulky. And I have to say they are still very lightweight, very well executed, obviously mostly plastic to keep the weight down. Here we have quite a nice thick padding, but it's a little bit on the stiffer side, then especially on the pads. Here we have the noise cancelling and ambient button, which can be changed to the Google Assistant button, power on and off with an LED. Input for the 3.5mm cable, and on the other side we have the USB Type-C cable, and here, as you can already see, triggered by accident, but that was here in the video. On the right side we have the touch controls that work out really well. We can, like I said, fold it up and we can rotate them. So overall they did a really good job here, especially compared to last year with the pads, because these got a little bit thicker right now. They were a little bit more shallow and my ears touched. Not a thing here this time, and especially with the very thick foam here, memory foam as well. This though has one upside and one downside. The upside is if you put them on, they kind of get onto your head like a suction cup, which delivers pretty much already the best passive noise cancellation, which feels better than many with the active noise cancellation. But that comes with one trade-off. Due to having such a good seal, you don't really have much breathing, so your ears will get warm very quickly. I mean, the comfort on its own, I have to say, is really nicely done. You can feel the headband because of the little bit of a more spongy feel here, but the clamping force has been chosen really well, and especially if you make them a little bit maybe longer, you don't feel the headband so much. You still have a good seal around here, and they feel very, very natural. They don't really feel all that obvious on your head, and you can move around. The fit is very good. So besides the point that they get a little bit warm, this time no further complaints. Now, I mean, I would wish for a little bit more breathing so they wouldn't heat up so much, but I'm not quite sure how to achieve that, because then the noise cancelling wouldn't be what it is. But let's actually talk already about that. And that is easily the one big, extreme big highlight here, because I mean the M2 last year was already like 1 year ahead, and I'm not quite sure if I should say this is a year ahead of the competition now, because that feels like an understatement. It almost feels like Sony is like 2 or more years ahead. Everyone else seems to use the same noise cancelling chip because they're all pretty much on par. Then maybe both a little bit ahead, and with a huge gap there is the M2. But now there is the M3 that puts everything once again even higher, because the noise cancelling is so eerily good that if you put them on, walk around your house, maybe do some normal stuff, even walk the stairs, you don't hear anything. You feel kind of completely isolated, which is actually odd at some point that you hear and kind of focus only on your breathing. Now, obviously that is holy moly great if you are on a plane or if you're on a train or anything else, because, I mean, the noise cancelling is so good and so much better than anything else that if noise cancelling is important for you, I can already tell you, this is the only option. This is still even way better than on the M2. And then, for example, we have these nice little features, like for example, if you put your hand on the right ear cup, it kind of gets with the microphones, the sounds, it picks it up so you can hear something if you're listening to music and want to hear someone, if you maybe get kind of because you won't hear people coming on. So that's a nice feature, but we also have to talk about the app here. Here you can see the app. We have adaptive sound control that does pretty much things already on its own. Then we have ambient sound control with the noise cancelling. You can adjust this in a few steps, focus on the voice, for example. Then we have a noise cancelling optimizer, optimized, and it just does that on its own. Sound position control, surround, equalizer. That one unfortunately only works if you set the sound quality priority to the stable connection, which is something that I don't like so much. I would wish for that to be a thing on the sound quality option as well, but I kind of get what it's doing, because this is still a headphone that supports aptX, HD, LDAC, and so much more things that you get if you use sound quality, the best possible sound quality. But I'm going into the sound signature a little bit later. Then we have DSE-HX and some other things. So getting back to if you actually use it over Bluetooth, I can tell you that it is loud enough, I would say, actually for pretty much everyone. So 95% of all people should have a loud enough headphone. I'm one of those 5% because I listen way too loud, and for me, I would say it's not always quite enough, especially if I would use the stable connection with an equalizer. I lose out a little bit more on volume, that's a normal thing, and then they weren't loud enough for me. That's just me, everyone else should be fine, like I said. Now, with cable though, with the 3.5mm cable, just using for example the OnePlus 5T, I actually could get louder than on the Bluetooth connection, and then it was loud enough for me without any issues. We also then get a battery life of about 30 hours. I didn't really measure that because 30 hours, which it gets very close to. That's easily more than good enough. So we've covered comfort, which is actually really good and improved besides the heat. We've covered the app, we've covered the functionality, touch controls, voice assistant works, and so let's get to the big important part, the sound quality. Now, I did not like it on the first generation because it was way too heavily sounded. It wasn't all that controlled, and it just wasn't quite balanced, so it didn't sound good. Second generation didn't change a thing. Now the third generation did improve, I would say, enough for me to say it's okay now. Soundstage isn't super wide because of the whole isolation going on, and you feel kind of a little bit isolated and kind of trapped. It's not really wide. The imaging is fine, but it's the sound signature that I think still is a little bit too heavy. And it seems to be a thing that this kind of target market wants. They want something fun sound with a lot of bass, which these definitely have. But I still think it's a little bit too much, because if Sony would listen to me, I would say this. If you, for example, use the equalizer and send the clear bass to -3, at least -3, then I would say it's nice enough sounded, or maybe go -4, which is the one I've used, for example. -5 in some aspects sounded a little bit too thin. Then it would be good, because on its own, the bass, if you just use it out of the box with the sound quality, so no equalizer setting on, I still think the bass is a little bit too heavy. And here is where so many people disagreed with me in the past. They said, if you don't want the bass, just turn it down. You can, but it is still not a high quality bass. The bass still is a little bit uncontrolled. It's quite boomy. The resolution isn't all that great, and it doesn't extend all that far below in the sub bass area. It's just where it is quite good in the midst of the bass and kind of kick bass, very boomy and very overly emphasized, where obviously the mids just take a little bit of a dive. They're a little bit recessed and actually feel like the vocals are ever so slightly behind the instruments. Many people like it on one line, which is good. I prefer it even in front, but here it feels a little bit beyond it, a little bit back, which is not a huge issue. You can obviously use the equalizer to get rid of that. Even though the highs, I have to say, actually now are the best part here, because they are obviously rolled off. They are definitely not harsh. There is no sibilance at all, and definitely well made for hours and hours of listening. Even though I have to say, with the heavy bass, I could not really listen to them all that long, especially since also my ears heated up, which made me a little bit dizzy. But the bass was a little bit kind of more of a thumping bass, very pushing, and over time you got a little bit kind of tired of them. They didn't really sound overly dynamic, though, I have to also say. They didn't really sound all that engaging and amazing. Now, they are, that's the one big thing, very bass heavy, and you can listen to bass heavy music. Now, like I said, they still are a bit uncontrolled. You can hear some kind of flappering of the bass, but it is a bass that by now is, I would say, good enough for most people to be enjoyable. The mids do a good job, and the highs definitely won't fatigue anyone, especially if you turn down the bass just a little bit to -3 or -4. They are, I would say, so nicely fun sounded, so mainstream sounded, that would be, in my opinion, absolutely nice. Now, like I said, I lose a little bit out on volume, but With -3, then they're absolutely enjoyable, because then the bass also gets a little bit more controlled because it doesn't push it so hard anymore. Mids kinda also get a little bit more dominant because they don't get overshadowed by the bass, and the highs do a nice job. So overall, it's still not an audiophile sound, and I think no one really wants it, because all of those, and I think that's not gonna change anytime soon, of those Bluetooth headphones with noise cancelling are heavily sounded towards bass. Many people want that. It's not a super neutral sound, and I don't think we will get that anytime soon. The closest thing that I've heard, even though also still sounded, were something like the Biodynamic Lagoon ANC, which will come out, in December. But now we are at a point where, along with the really nice comfort, with the amazing, almost unbelievably good noise cancellation, the amazing battery life, the whole connectivity, the extra features, the sound is, in my opinion, still just acceptable enough so I can recommend them. So here's the thing. Usually people always tell me that I complain too much. So let's just say I'm gonna suggest a few changes for next year. Now, one thing that I would like to change is some more breathing for the ear cups, but I kind of don't really get how they could achieve that without sacrificing on the passive noise cancellation, which, like I said, is already on its own better than some are with active noise cancellation. And then if you turn on active noise cancellation, they are on a completely different realm, and no one gets even close by now. So I would say 1 year behind doesn't sound enough. I think others need like 2 years to even get close, if they will be able to kind of catch up, because I'm not quite sure how you could even improve this for next year's generation. So, sound, like I said, by now I'm at a point where I can say, yeah, this is okay. With the rest, it's okay. And this is me, who's obviously a little bit more demanding when it comes to sound, because I am not the target market for this. I want more of a cleaner, neutral sound, something more audiophile. But even I, at this point, can say, yeah, this is enjoyable to a certain degree, which still sounds overly negative. But reading the comments from the previous reviews and from the previous noise cancelling, people don't seem to have an issue with. So I can just tell you this. If you've liked the first generation, if you've liked the second generation, you should just love this even more so, because the sound got more mature. It got improved. The noise cancelling got better. The comfort got better. And if I would have to think which others out there are legit competitors, I actually can't really think of any. Something like, for example, even Sony's own Here-On 2, I think sounded a little bit nicer. But in terms of comfort, noise cancellation, no comparison. The Bose, they sound less sounded, but the sound quality wasn't really good. So this is, I would say, almost better by now. The comfort is better here. The noise cancelling is way better here. And all the others, I don't think are really on that level. So by now, I would even have to say that these are the best noise cancelling ones out there. Like I said, the Biodynamic, they will be noticeably better in terms of audio quality. Noise cancelling and comfort, though, not really. And then what's left? Not really much. So $350 over the M2, I think they are definitely worth it, because they should be like 50, 60, 70 bucks more. But the noise cancellation, the comfort, and the improved sound are worth that. And especially by now, if you get it on a deal. And these, that's actually a big thing. The M2 and the M1 got on sale so often that you won't have to pay $350 for these already now. And even, for example, Black Friday or anytime soon, you will get them so much cheaper, and then the value gets better. So if noise cancellation is your biggest priority and you want a nice sound that you can enjoy with good comfort, these are still it. I just have to admit this, even though they are not my personal favorite, even though, noise cancelling is just not my thing, I have to say that these do a pretty banging job this time. Job. Okay, so until next time, bye.